Grace, mercy, and peace to you from God our Father and from Jesus Christ our Lord. This is the day that the Lord has made. We are glad and we're rejoicing in it. It is a good day to be alive. It is a good day to be Information Saturday with each and every one of you. If you would take this opportunity to greet us in the comments, let us know that you're joining us right there in your home, in your car, wherever you're viewing this on this Saturday morning. Go ahead. Would you greet us in the comments? Now, I need to do a few housekeeping things. And then we're going to bring up our guests. Just about all of our guests are in the backspace. So the first thing I need us to do, I need us to share this with as many people as we can. So I want you to hit that share button right now so that your community will be able to get in on this conversation. This one is for the ladies. And so next month we'll do something for men, but today rather, we're going to do something for the ladies. We want you to share it. And I want to kind of bring you up to how we got to this conversation. And then I'll bring up our guests and we'll get into this conversation for today. This is going to be about the most spiritual this conversation is going to be this morning. So for Mother's Day, I preached a message about Dorcas. You remember I preached a sermon entitled "What Happened to Dorcas?" And one of the major things that came up in the preparation for that message, in the preaching of that message, was that Dorcas did everything for everyone else, but didn't really take care of herself, and that the people that she was ministering to didn't really minister to her. She was doing everything for everyone else. She did it so much to a friend of mine said she worked herself to death, and she literally fell sick and died. And my question to the sermon was, what happened to Dorcas? How did she get so far in doing for everyone else? Remember, I taught you her spiritual discipline was generosity. Her spiritual gift was mercy, and her spiritual fruit was kindness. That's great. But when she got finished doing for everyone else, what did she do for herself? And I thought it would be great. We still have a guest on the way, but I thought it would be great if I brought in some ladies that would help us have this conversation. So today we're going to have a conversation about women and self-care. Now, we have guests. Now, here's the thing. The guests do not know each other, but I have a feeling that they're going to get along perfectly. We have Kelle Daniels. She's in Pensacola, Florida. We have a mental health expert and Miss Elmore. We have Bump Them Kids and Miss Christina. Her husband and I, we went to school together. And so I reached out to these sisters and asked them if they come on and if they would help us have this conversation. And they agreed. So let's welcome these ladies to the stage. Good afternoon, ladies. How are you all?
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
We hear you wonderfully. And Miss Daniels is still on her way in. Her computer shut down just as we was getting started. So we know this is going to be a perfect conversation for tonight. And as a disclaimer, I'm being little brother listening in on big sisters having conversation about girl things. Okay.
Gotcha.
I'm just gonna lead with questions, and I'm gonna let these ladies talk to us and teach us about how this is supposed to go. Okay, I got it wrong. He gave me the wrong one.
I already know. I already know.
So here's what happened. I reached out to a frat brother of mine for a connection with Miss Elmore. And when I saw her name, I was like, oh my God, he gave me the wrong name. But that's all right. We're going to keep on anyway. And we'll welcome Miss Daniels in when she gets in. So here's our first question for tonight. I'm gonna throw this at Miss Elmore because she's the mental health expert. We're gonna throw this to her first, and we're gonna just bounce it around. We're just talking. I'm listening in. First question here. What is self-love? What is self-care? Both of you go for it, but I wanted to give it to Miss Elmore first. I'm taking notes.
No pressure. Okay. And so actually when I talk to people about this question, or I ask them what do they do for self-care, or how do they show themselves self-love, especially women, a great deal of people talk about things that they do for other people. While I understand many of us get self-gratification by doing things for other people, but quite so often, especially in the African American community, we put on our capes and we forget to take them off. And when I say cape, I mean that Superwoman cape. You know, we're all walking around with that S on our chest, but you have to hang it up sometimes. And so that self-love is, you have to, just like you have to nurture a baby, you have to nurture a plant, you have to nurture yourself so that you are able to give to other people. And so self-care is important. I don't care what your job is. I don't care what you're doing in life. Self-care is important and should be first priority. To be quite honest, I know that we're taught not to be selfish all of our lives, but self-care and self-love is not selfish. Even I just flew this past week. They tell you on the airplane to put your mask on first and then help the other passengers. Mm-hmm. But we forget to do that sometimes. Now I can talk on this all day. So come on, Miss Christina. Because this is my topic here.
Listen, it's mine too. And so, my heart is driven around productivity and self-care because we all know we need it. The challenge is, when is it supposed to happen? Mm-hmm. And so my heart is always aligned with moving the components of your life around so that you can practice better self-care and self-love. When he asked the question, a quote came to mind, something in alignment. I can't remember who said it. I can't remember the exact words, but the picture of it was, we're all born originals, but we die imitations and copies. Ooh. And when I think about self-love, I would have to think about, who am I really that I'm actually loving? Like, who am I? Do I know what I like? I have some clients, they shared that they've been caring for others so long, they don't even remember what their favorite color is anymore. Mm-hmm. Do I remember what I love, what I can do for myself that feels so good that it speaks life to my soul and my spirit? And so I have found that self-love is really embracing self-awareness, knowing what speaks life to us in different seasons, knowing what my limitations are and protecting them, having boundaries, and saying, listen, I'm sorry, kids, you cannot share my cheesecake. There are some days when I can share that cheesecake, but there are other moments where my self-love is saying, this is mine and I'm not sharing it. I found self-care, for a lot of us, we find it to be an action, something that we do, which it can be. But self-care is whatever brings you back to life, just like you talking about plants. I'm a plant lady. You guys can't see them behind me, but they're here. And so for some plants, they want water every other day, or they faint. For some others, you can spritz them a little bit. Others, you can leave them like a cactus and don't touch them at all. And they thrive just that way. And so self-care and self-love means knowing who you are, what you're grounded in, and then what are the things that I need to do to make sure that I'm thriving.
Amen. Yes.
Okay. So this isn't the next question. This is kind of piggyback question, kind of dig into this a little more. So where do we begin with self-awareness? Like, how do we start on a journey towards being aware of ourselves. It's just a toss up, but based off of what we said, wearing this S on the chest all the time, but needing to be brought back to life. I don't even realize I need to be brought back to life. So how do I come to the place of knowing, hey, I got an S on my chest? How do I become self-aware of things on that nature?
Spending time with yourself. That's the first step. I tell people that the pandemic was a blessing and a curse. We focus on all of the negative things that happened, but I think a lot of people got a chance to know themselves during the pandemic because the world shut down for at least 2 weeks. And some people, they didn't like the person that they saw. Or as Miss Christina said, some people forgot who they were. In my first initial session with clients, I'll always ask, tell me about yourself. And you would be amazed at the number of people that struggle to answer that question. But it's because they have become someone else for so many other people that they have forgotten who they are. I'll say, tell me about yourself. And then they'll tell me, about their siblings, their children, they may be wives, all of these things. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly who are they. They're telling me who they are to other people, but they're not telling me who they are. So I think the biggest thing, we don't want another pandemic to happen, but I think the biggest thing is for people to spend time with themselves. Date yourself. You don't always have to go out to dinner or to the movie or whatever with someone else. Go by yourself and spend time with yourself. Spend time, with your higher power. A lot of people thrive and get validation from other people. But you have to spend time with yourself so that I thought I knew myself, backwards and forwards. But when that pandemic happened, I learned a lot about myself. And so, some things I realized, hey, this needs some work. And some things, I liked and I wanted to, kind of enhance. So to answer that question, I think in a nutshell is to spend time with yourself and just kind of learn yourself. And I'm a huge component of journaling. And so, while something may not seem relevant to you right now, it may become relevant a little bit later. Thank you, sister.
He's laughing. When I think about self-awareness, I kind of think of it as twofold. One is what Miss Elmore said about, spending time alone and connecting with God and saying, okay, Lord, show me myself. And then I also fully believe that God also uses other people to increase our self-awareness also. Yes. So when I think about knowing myself as an individual, just me, I share with my community, maybe it was last week or so, we were talking about getting rid of your overwhelm, and I was asking them, what are the signs of overwhelm that pop up in your life? Like, how do you know when you're overwhelmed? And their very authentic answers were refreshing and sometimes scary, right? Because there were answers like, sometimes my face starts tingling. I get headaches. I feel all this tension in my neck and shoulders. I can't move my body like I used to. I start yelling, or then I start repressing my emotions and I become like a shell. And I'm like, thinking of these women, this is such an authentic story. Like, know yourself, know what it looks like when you start to go down the tunnel, where you start to say to yourself, I'm not okay right now. I'm not okay right now. Like I'm having a day, and there are days where, listen, Pastor Mickles, your brother comes in. I'm like, listen, you need to get your kids because I'm not okay today. It could be a myriad of reasons. It could be business related. It could be home related. It could be homeschooling related. It could be grief. We just lost Pastor Noble. Like all these things where it ties together. And one day he came out and said, baby, I'm not okay today. I'm saying that out loud that I'm not all right. You know what I'm saying? It out loud. And so I found that I can know myself. Okay, my neck is getting tight. I feel like I'm not taking deep breaths like I should be. All these different things of me doing my inner checks, right? But then I've also found that God uses my family, the people that we show our authentic self to, like the cute and the not so cute, that version, we show that version of ourselves to our family members. And so there are days where your boy is like, are you okay? You seem off today. And that means in husband talk, why you got an attitude? Is there something wrong with you? Like that's, his his kind way of saying, you're tripping today. And so they're just these.
Since I can't say amen, I'll blink.
Huh?
I can't say amen, I'll blink.
There are days where it's like, listen, are you okay? I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to act like that. But it brings awareness to me that something might be triggering me today, or I might be frustrated about something and I'm accidentally taking it out on my family members, So there are these inner checks that we can do inside, self-awareness, be aware of yourself. Nobody else lives in there but you. And then there are also hints from our family members around us, that say, girl, do you need a nap? Mom, I think you should go lay down. Or they start cleaning the house and looking at me crazy because I'm tripping, And so just the awareness can come from a myriad of ways as long as we're listening to the message.
Oh, this is great. I'm enjoying this.
And just to piggyback, and the reason I started clapping when you said, am I okay, saying that I'm not okay today? That is so important because quite so often we don't admit that we're not okay to ourselves and to others. And so that's the first thing, acknowledging that you're not okay. It's a common greeting. Hey, how are you doing? And just like, out of reflex, we say, I'm good, but I challenge people to pause. I mean, it's not that, everyone wants that you want to go around and, lay your problems on everybody. But I think it's a time to, like you said, kind of check in with yourself. Am I really okay? And because we think that we have to be strong all the time, we feel like we have to say that we are okay, even when we are not. Just a little bit of transparency. So in the daytime, as I say, I work with high school students. And so apparently my face must have said one day that I was not okay.
Not okay.
Because my coworker, who's actually a male, who, no offense, Pastor Nichols, sometimes things go over you all's head. But he came in and he said, are you okay? And typically I would have said yes, but I was not okay. And so I had to let him know, like, no, I'm not okay. And I was so proud of myself in that moment because, as anyone else, I would typically say, yes, I'm okay, when I may be screaming on the inside, and so that's the thing that I want the ladies to know and to remember. One, it's okay not to be okay, but then two, be truthful and authentic with yourself. That's when you're not okay, but then also being comfortable with being authentic with other people as well. And so just one last thing on that. Many of us were wearing masks before the pandemic. We were wearing masks before the N95. Okay. When we step outside of our homes, we put that mask on. I don't care what's going on the other side of those four walls. We stepped outside, we put our cape on and we put our mask on, and all is well to the world. And so many of us are looking at other women and I'm like, gosh, they got it all together. No, she put on her mask just like you put on yours when you walk out the door. We all got problems. So just kind of, being okay with peeling back and acknowledging that everything is not okay, but it's okay that everything isn't okay.
Okay. Okay, Pastor Kelle has made it in. How you doing?
Hey, doing well. How are you all doing?
Hello.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Just in time for me to give you your question.
Okay. Let's do it.
Okay, so question number 2. Why is self-love, self-care so important? Like, what's the big deal here?
So, in my opinion, and I'm going to speak from an experiential place, self-love and self-care is so important because if you can't fully embrace and identify who, where, and what you are, it becomes a challenge for you to fully be able to care, love, and appreciate others in who they are. Most times when we don't have that kind of self-care, self-love, we love people like we want to be loved. We care people like we want them to care for us versus being able to see them in their place of love of what they need and in their type of care and speak in their language. So it's important that we come to a place as women that we can literally be okay with pulling back our layers and pulling back the unbeautiful parts of us and the hard things to accept and receive and what's unlovable for others and maybe have even been unlovable to us, but really looking at it to see that it is a beautiful part of who we become and what makes us what we are. I think one thing with women, I don't know about for you guys, but I've been surrounded by nothing but strong women. And with strong women, how they love themselves was always giving to others. So their language of love was going and going and going. And I can't even say that I've ever seen my mom or my grandma have like R&R. Like I can't even say that I've just seen the nurturing and the mother and the go. So when I started coming through my life journey, I mean, I had some coming and some going, but I was tired. I got mentally tired, emotionally burnt out. I mean, even those who I love and my kids were innocent, I found myself getting certain triggers. And I'm saying, okay, wait, I know I'm not mad at everybody, but what's wrong with me? And it came to a place that I actually had to go through a lot of healing. So I'm going to say self-care, self-love is the more that we can invest in the parts of us that, let's just say, don't have the appropriate care. We tend to build more in our stronger places and neglect our weaker places. But when we can direct some attention into those places that are weaker, that makes us more vulnerable and more susceptible, and put some more attention to there, have more conversations about that, I think that helps us to build that confidence and that ability to love ourselves more holistically. As a woman, I mean, we go through all types from starting at a young age. So if we never take time to say, okay, who am I really? Not what I've been called, not the title on my name or what everybody has thought that I should be. Who am I? So I can learn to love the me without all of the bells and the whistles.
That's the preaching. Come on.
Pass the plate.
Anybody else jumping in on this?
I want to add, and this is only funny because me and my mom were talking about this the other day around Mother's Day. She was talking to me about how she used to take Mom's Day out when we were kids. Now, I don't remember this per se, but the fact that she was reminding me of it, I guess kind of showed me where I got it from. She would just leave and go to lunch or movie with a friend or by herself. We would like grab on her legs like, Mom, where are you going? And she was like, it's Mom's Day out. Like, goodbye. I'm off the clock today. And so, we joked about bump them kids, but, I think I got it. It trickled down through the DNA a little bit. One thing that I want to add to that is self-care, self-love is valuable because we're the example, for the next generation. Just like we talked about our mothers, grandmothers, all these things, how I express womanhood to I have 4 sons and a daughter. How I express womanhood to these 5 little Garrets that are coming behind me, it's so pivotal. I can remember my daughter being around age 3. And I remember feeling in myself in that moment that I didn't want her to grow up and be a woman like I was at that time. I was tired. Everything that she shared, I was tired. I was irritable. You know, I was very picky about, I wanted everything a certain kind of way. And if it wasn't the way I wanted it, I was swooping in to fix all problems, you know, and just, I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And this was all before, you know, we started some of the community things that we were starting. But I realized I didn't want her to see womanhood through that lens. I didn't. And in order for me to change how she saw it, I had to change. And then for my boys, they're going to grow up and be somebody's husband one day. And I don't want them to think that women are the primary problem solvers in the home. I don't want to solve all the problems. You know, that's what Mr. Garret is here to partner with me and do, you know. And so I want them to see their mother resting. I want them to see their mother going after her dreams. And part of my dreams is not perfectly organized closets. You know, it's about doing the things that bring you life and bring you vibrancy. And they have to see us doing it in order for them to go grow up and say, hey, I'm going to take mom's day out. Hey, I'm going to take a nap because it's Saturday and that's what people do on a Saturday afternoon. They should be able to see us not constantly piling things into every crevice of time with no margin, no white space, no time to just sit and, you know, like Miss Elmore said, think to yourself and talk to God and all these things. If we don't build those things in and them see us put our bonnet on and climb into bed, right? And go and rest, don't bother me for an hour. Wake me at 3:00 with a cup of coffee. You know, that's how I talk to my kids at this point. You know, they should be able to see that in us in order for them to bring self-care and self-love into the real world.
Absolutely.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, teaching it, implementing it, starting, changing generational perspectives, even as far as our culture, you know, putting that thing in place. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the only thing I would add there is, you know, typically our goal is to be productive, right? And so we feel like we have to go and go and go. Let's leave that to the Energizer Bunny. You know, we in order to be our best selves, we have to love ourselves and have that self-care. If you don't take care of yourself, just like anything else, you'll die, you know. And so the very goal that you're pushing yourself through to get to, you won't accomplish because you've killed yourself. And not necessarily in the literal all the time, but it can, but figuratively as well. You know, I tell people all of the time, you know, I can go outside and, you know, run 6 miles. I really can't, but I can go and run 6 miles and I'm gonna be pretty tired. But that mental and emotional exhaustion is something way different. You know, you're trying to figure out, why can't you get out of bed? Why can't you just, you know, simply lift your head? Because you've pushed yourself past that point. So, you know, Dr. Holmes told me, he said, when you mentioned about talking about self-care, that I was the first person to come to mind, because they know I love myself. You know, I'm getting massages. You know, I'm getting the acupuncture, the foot detox, you name it, I'm trying it, you know, because I have not always been that way, but what I realized is that the nature of my job, with an S, the nature of my jobs, that they are mentally and emotionally taxing. And so in order for me to be the best version of myself in my work, but even the best version of myself just as a person, I have to love and take time for myself. So in a nutshell, I would say that the self-love and the self-care is important for just productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got a segue question into my next question, and I'm gonna pose this in the way of a statement that I'm sure we made, but I don't have time for that yet.
You can make time, or the time will make you.
And that's the truth. When you say time will make you, I remember, I think it was maybe 7 years ago, I said, I'm gonna put myself into high anxiety to the point that I couldn't sleep. I hit a point of stress. My hair started shedding. My skin started breaking out. And it was because I was trying to balance a household with a family of 5, operate ministry-wise, support a spouse who was doing sports, support each gift of each child, which was never in the same area at the same time.
Never.
And in trying to stay up and stay on the scene, including cooking dinner and household, I worked myself into a tizzy. To the point where my appetite started minimizing. Okay, so I thought I was trying to get a little fine a little bit. So, I ain't paying attention to that. Just kind of let my appetite burn out. But then I got a headache, and then my skin started breaking out, and the fatigue started kicking in. And it was because I was not making time for me. And I'd actually developed a mentality that if I started taking time for me, that means I was being selfish and robbing my family and my kids from the better parts of me. And, I'm not being this present wife, and I'm not being this adequate mom. But I shut all the way down, ended up in the hospital on some potassium, laying up in the bed on some fluids.
You helping now?
Behind some fluids. So the whole house was going, the house was going down. Because Miss Fingertips wasn't there. But I tore myself down trying to achieve this imaginative, super amazing mom, on point wife, always on the set. You can count on me. And I hurt myself.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about you don't have, baby, figure it out. Pay somebody to come do something while you go where you need to go. Pay somebody to do something while you go and recover yourself. But don't harm yourself, because we don't want to put unnecessary stress and pressure on ourselves that cause us to weaken or expire before our time.
Mm-hmm. And you said pay someone to do something while you do something else. I'm glad you said that, because in the African American community, especially among women, it's sometimes frowned upon, to do that. But let me tell you something. The best feeling that I had today was I was at work and somebody else was here cleaning this house, and I walked into a clean house. Yes. I mean, I think I shouted before I made it to the kitchen, because it did not look like this when I left home. Thank you, Jesus. But when you have all these things going on and you're wearing all these different hats, you have to be okay with, like you said, paying someone else to do it. Now, I prayed for that lady that she live a long time and that and that she don't get sick, because Lord knows I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Keep her, God.
Yes, please. So I'm glad that you made that statement. It's a shout in there. It's a shout. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, so I'm glad you made that statement.
I want to add to the tail end of this to think about eternal perspective. All right. So this is for all the women. Like, I vibe with this conversation. And I say that because, okay, so my thought is to delegate. Okay. A lot of times we say we don't have time. That's probably true. Right? Like you're looking at your schedule, the pastor over here to my left, she said, listen, I was doing all the things. I'm got this husband, I got these babies, they got gifts, I'm in ministry. All these things are happening, whirling around me. When I sit and look at this calendar, there are no empty spaces. I'm looking, you can tell me whatever you want to, 3 fly ladies on camera. There's no space here on this calendar, right? And so, and opposite of that, I want to give some perspective on how to undo it. So, number one, if you're married, right now, you dating, there are some things we just cannot delegate. Okay, some things you just cannot give away. Number one, if you're married, you cannot delegate loving on, cheering for, hyping up that fly brother that God gave you. You asked for that, right? If you married, if you're dating, that's a different conversation. I'm talking about I'm in covenant relationship with this person, right? There's some things that unless you're in one of those polyamorous relationships, which I don't think they're listening today, unless you're in one of those relationships, there's some things that only you're supposed to be doing, sis. Right. We're in mixed company, so I'm gonna let us fill in the blanks. Right. All right. That's number one, right? I can't delegate that. We'd be very upset if that got delegated. Amen. So that's number one. I don't want no sister at the gas station telling him he smells good. None of this. You know they hungry. It's hard out here for a good man. So you got to tell him he's dope before he leaves the house. That's number one. You can't delegate loving on your honey. Number two, you can't delegate being an amazing mom to your kids, right? Teaching them, affirming them, nurturing them, hugging them, right? Saying, I'm so glad I'm your mom and I really think you're this great kid. This does not include cleaning up behind them and all these other things. There are some affirmative things that as a mother, it's your job to do, that they need to hear from you and feel from you. And then number three, you cannot delegate vision. A lot of us, we have hopes, we have dreams, we have things that God wants to do in us, but we're looking to other people to validate that. Yeah. God gave you the idea. You need to sit with him and figure out what the next step will be. And then you can, bring somebody else on to run your social media or be your virtual assistant or some of these other things. Aside from the spouse, aside from loving these kids, aside from dreaming big and having vision, there's this whole other list of stuff that we can give away to someone else. All this other stuff, the cleaning service, be bougie. Like, it's not that expensive. I know everybody's thinking that having a cleaning service is like, you got to be out the Huxtables or fresh live in Bel Air. It's not. Like, for her to come and do my kitchen and my bathrooms is under $200. And it stays clean 3 times as long because she came and she just undid. Y'all, she get on her hands and knees and scrub my flow. Like, yes. I cry when she leaves. Like, she's that good. It's not as expensive as you think it is. It's something that you can have. You can have a virtual assistant for $10, $15 an hour, right? That if they're going out and getting you, my lady, she looks for events for me, speaking engagements, follow-ups on certain things. If I make $1,000 from paying her $20, why would I not pay her $20? And it's something that I can go homeschool my kids, right? Mm-hmm. I'm over there doing what only I can do while she does stuff that's tied to the vision. And so some of us, we get so, enamored with doing all this stuff. I think it's tied to, we're going to let Miss Elmore work through our trauma and generational stuff and all these things. But I'm here to say, just call the cleaning service tomorrow and see how much it costs for them to come in. Some of our ladies, they're regular women and they hire chefs to feed their family. They're regular. They're not doing anything, but it's around the same cost for them going to the grocery store every other day, spending hundreds of dollars to feed their family dinner. They get their time back. They get their joy back. They got their peace, so you can trade it out. Learn to delegate.
Absolutely.
So that kind of pushes us over into question number 3, which I was going to give to Lady Chris. So might as well. What are the benefits of practicing self-love and self-care? So we're already there. Might as well keep going.
Oh, well, I will say some of the top benefits are being the example for the next generation. And then I don't want to have to suffer through until my kids leave home. I went to a pastor's wife event, right? Pastor's wife event. And I think I had to take my 3 small kids with me at the time. I think maybe they were 4 and my twins were 2 or something. And of course they're sitting on the floor and they're wiggling. And I'm just like, why did I come? And, and one of the past lady that was facilitating the workshop in that moment, she was talking about seasons of life. And she looked at me and she was like, oh, honey, you're going to be in that season for a long time. And I almost broke down. Because I was so worn out. I was so stressed. Like, I mean, those twins, even to this day, they are about to be 12. They still wear me out. So, I was in such a fragile place at that time. All I kept thinking about was I got 16 more years of feeling like this. And so for the benefit of you existing in your fullness now, feeling like the best version of yourself now, not waiting until 5 years from now, 10 years from now to do the things that you love to do. What about thriving today? Like, what choices can I make if I hire for this thing or teach my kids, especially, how to do their part around the house? If I communicate with my spouse about needing to go to Panera and sit there quietly for a couple hours a week. If I begin to do those healthy communication things and teach better, then I can have those benefits today. I don't want to wait a decade. I got a long time before I have an empty nest. I do not want to wait 10 more years to feel like Christina again, So I think that the benefit is really knowing yourself on a different level, and then learning to advocate for yourself, that there are things that I want in this season of my life, and I want to stand up for myself and say, I don't want to do that anymore, and be okay with that.
Wow.
Absolutely. So I would say to have your identity back, because as we kind of have stated several times, we often get lost into who we are to other people, and we forget who we are. We engulf ourselves as a wife, we engulf ourselves as a mother, we engulf ourselves in whatever our profession is, we engulf ourselves in the community, all of those things. And then when we're asked the simple but complex question, who are you? We can't answer because we've lost ourselves. And then the other thing is the B word. And no, it's not the one y'all are thinking. It's boundaries. It's boundaries, setting those boundaries. And, that seems
I love my bleep button.
Well,
like I'm muting her. Like
when you called and said you were Pastor Nichols, I knew what time it was. So, I censored myself. I do. When in Rome, do as Romans do. But, but yes, we think that setting boundaries is easy when you initially hear it, but it can be difficult for some. We think that saying no means putting up a barrier or we're being mean or whatever. No, it's protecting your peace. You can't be everything to everybody. Okay. Being okay with saying no, and that's it, not looking for an explanation. No is a complete sentence. Being comfortable in giving that no. I can remember telling a client, hey, you've got to set some boundaries. And so we've been kind of preaching that and trying to get her to practice. And she finally came back to me and she said, well, you didn't tell me I was going to have to tell people my boundaries. Well, how are they going to know if you don't tell them? You can't change the rules of the game in the middle of the game and don't tell people the rules.
Yes.
So that's, and to be honest, sometimes that's my struggle, setting boundaries, because I want to be, I have that natural, I want to fix things sometimes. So not always saying yes, being okay with saying no, being okay with not being able to do everything all the time, not feeling like when I look down at that calendar, hey, nothing's there, that something has to be there, because you have to recharge and reset.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Wow. So let me say this. During my young mothering and coming into life, I sure wish I had a Miss Christina, and I sure wish I had a Miss Tandrea Elmore. And I pray that every woman look at as they stream and pay attention to, they actually live from this moment, because my story is actually the opposite. Mm-hmm. So I had children young at 18. That was my first child coming out in high school. So with that, we already know that's a whole bunch of emotional trauma and everything else that comes with it, because a child is just birthing a child. I don't care how mature you are, your brain cells, you're just not together with that. So me being a young mom, I came up in the generation of the go, 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 go. So boundaries was never a word used. Standards, yes, as a woman, but not in the area of what you don't do and how you don't do and how much you don't contribute. It's actually, you're supposed to show up. You're supposed to meet this level, and you're not this if you don't meet this level or you're falling short. I came up pushing, going. And it wasn't until my children turned 18 They came through high school, went through 18. They're very ambitious. Everybody was ready to go on and live their lives. So it wasn't until my children were like, bye, mama, that I recognized I left me. So I'm not cooking for anybody. I'm not running to appointments. I'm not picking up and dropping off. You know, I'm not screaming across the house by the toilet and the laundry. Everything is now quiet. I'm showing up to this quietness. I'm waking up to this quietness. And for me, that was emotionally disturbing because now I've entered into this life I was not even prepared for. I had not even captured the fullness of my identity, my taste bud, because when you're a mom in the house, what you cook for the house, you eat too. You don't do 4 or 5 different meals according to everybody. So my even desire of what I liked, what I like to eat, special places I like to go outside of hair and nails, you know, and maybe to a water site, I was clueless. So here I was, this 38, 39-year-old woman getting ready to divorce, walking out of this life, no longer having the responsibility as a mother. And I didn't even know all the type of foods I like. When I looked at a map, I couldn't even mark a number of states that I visited and gone on a vacation to. I could drive through my city, and having lived here my whole life, would see so many different places. I never even just walked down through downtown and just ventured into some boutiques, you know, just to mix and to mingle and become sociable. So I went through this whole find your identity, Kelle. This whole place like, girl, who are you? What do you like? You're more than just a mom. You are more than just a wife. You're more than just a minister. You are a whole person. Who are you? Where do you start? So I went on this discovery. I mean, from interpersonal dates and trying different foods and different restaurants and just different things, tapping into stuff that I knew I couldn't do, like cycling. Baby, I know I tried it. I can't live on the treadmill, let alone getting up in the 5 a.m. cycling class. But I did all of these things to try to break myself out of that safety net and that place of fear where I hadn't come into my identity. So I had to enter into a whole nother phase of life to start fighting for myself. So now, I'm not going. I don't want it. I don't like it. I'm not a part of it. I mean, anyway, I don't feel that. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but that's not applicable to me. I am extremely now more free in myself because I've come into who Kelle is. And I'm totally okay with walking away. I'm totally okay with not having spaces in certain places, in certain sectors. I'm totally good with that now because I no longer feel like I have to be a part of so much. You know, I don't have to always be engaged or be involved because I am free with me. I'm comfortable with me. I've come into a place of self-care and a self-love that Kelle is important. It's not everybody else. And if I don't take care of me first or love me first or walk into this and practice this, then I'll start putting people and other things in places that are designed for me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I love that. Mm-hmm. I want to echo what both of you ladies said about boundaries, because I think sometimes we begin to implement them and they're so necessary, right? But then we forget that after we turn off this live, after we come back from our self-care moments and conferences that hype us up and all these awesome things, after we come back, you know, you go to Women That Are Loose, you all loose, and then you go back home to your house and your family's still bound. And you're like, y'all have not changed. Right. I have changed. I have grown this weekend, and y'all are still the same. Right. And so I want to make sure that we emphasize that it's good to give your family patience and grace. Okay. You are going to hop off of this and you might walk in to talk to your spouse or your kids. Y'all going to help out around the house. And then you tell your husband, I demand a virtual assistant. I demand a chef. And he'll look at you like, hold up.
You sis. Crazy.
Don't you get on that call no more.
This is the woman I am now. I am loose. I have boundaries. I have team self-care and all this stuff. So it's vital. Please take all the tidbits, But then remember, we have to give our families patience to adjust to the woman that we are changing into. You know, some of us maybe. Pastor Kelle, at one time she was quiet, maybe not, but I'm using you as an example. You might have been quiet, right? And then you came out, he said maybe a little bit. You might have been quiet, and all of a sudden you're like, God has spoke to me, and I am ready to preach the gospel to the nations, right? And everybody in your life is like, but I've always known you to be this person, right? So some of us, we've been running around, Superwoman cape on, saving everybody, and now all of a sudden we want to take it off, throw it in the trash, but everybody is still used to the old version of us. So please give your family patience, sit down and talk to them, say, hey, these are some changes that I need to make around the house. You know, hey, babe, is there any way that let's look at our budget and see if this is something that we can do? I know you tired of the floor being messy. I'm tired too. We both work. Maybe we could and he's probably going to be like, you know what? Listen, our cleaning lady came and he was like, can you do the whole house? Like he knew. Y'all, he knew. Like, my business started picking up. We had more kids. It was like, baby, I can't work, do the business, which is a lot of this talking and coaching. I can't do this and keep a spotless house and homeschool 5 children.
Ooh,
so I know you don't care about who mops the floor.
That's right.
So is this something that we could work? And he was like, absolutely. You're gonna have more energy for all the things in the house. Everybody was saying, I would love to have somebody come clean, right? But we got to have these conversations, because if we don't, we're going to feel like unappreciated, disappointed with our families. Y'all all need to just move out because you don't value me. We're going to go down the hole. Come out of the hole, sister. Come out the hole and have the conversations, and just give your family a chance to get used to you not wearing the cape anymore.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like that.
Which actually, I was thinking of this question. You kind of just pushed me right on into my question. It's not my last question, but it's a good one. So how do we as husbands and children and support to wives and moms and women, how do we support you in this kind of a journey? Where do we start in the support of something like this? You just said you need to give us patience and grace. We accept all patience and all grace. Okay, we're not jumping over the fence immediately.
Yes,
but we're opening the door little by little by little. How do we start making that transition?
One of the places that I've seen ladies in my community or clients vocalize their concerns, I ain't gonna say complain, vocalize their concerns about the most is helping out with the kids and housework. Those are the 2 things that, we had a meetup this weekend, and one of the young ladies was so frustrated with her husband because, he comes home from work and just puts the stuff down. And I was like, we can't divorce over like toothpaste on the sink, but this is what happens, people end up, your house falls apart because of certain things, but it's a compilation of many things over a consistent period of time. And so what we want to do is listen for maybe the underlying situation. Maybe, like Pastor Kelle said, there are some places where, I saw my mom do everything and I don't know how to turn the switch off. Maybe my husband's mother makes everything from scratch. Like she's the poor till the ancestors say stop. Like she's the epitome of that kind of woman. So,
and it's delish.
Exactly. All of that. So, I didn't learn how to cook certain things until we got married, but I always found so much comfort that he doesn't expect me to be his mother, and that's helpful. So the biggest things I've heard complaints about are housework and helping with kids. If y'all came in the house and said, leave my wife alone, go to bed. That alone, don't play with them. Don't hype them back up again, right? Don't get them excited again. Say, listen, I love y'all. My wife looked tired. She looked like she can't hear y'all anymore today. Y'all, we love y'all. Do the bed routine if there is one, if you said, but leave my wife alone, baby. Why don't you go in the room and just sit in some quiet for a while? Listen, that's a game-changing way to end the evening.
Mm-hmm. It'll change your life, change your night, and change your morning.
You might, right? Night and morning.
I'm gonna go back on me.
Night and morning.
No, it's the truth, because you said it, Key, when you said my wife. You didn't say y'all mama.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Leave my wife alone.
right? You made it personable, and when you make it personable, when your man make it personable, it comes from a different place. You know, so the woman then started feeling like, yeah, that's right. You know,
look at my boo.
Kids.
We love when men come in and put the hammer down.
Right.
Down in that bed.
Right.
I know when you do that.
Dude.
Just come save me. Tell him to go to sleep. Tell him don't talk to me no more.
And it's a two-way street, because see, you know, men like positive reinforcement.
Exactly.
Okay. Everybody happy.
Hallelujah.
Everybody happy. The kids are going to bed at 5:30.
It's daytime outside.
You sleepy? Take these no-nos and go to bed.
This melatonin. Baby, don't worry about cooking. What you want from takeout?
Right.
Absolutely.
You better talk dirty to me with this takeout.
Have mercy.
Keeping it real. Man, we gotta ride out this life.
Seriously.
We gotta make it through these kids, man.
Seriously. Team, baby.
What am I doing?
See, Miss Elmore up there fan, and she like, ooh, just take out, just send the kids to bed. That's a foreplay.
It was the DoorDash for me.
She said DoorDash.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
Wrong now, y'all. Let's stop.
We got one more question. It's a toss-up. Whoever jumps on this one, it's all on you. The last question for the night, for the day. How do I start my self-love, self-care practice? I done heard you guys talk about why I need to do this. So how do I start? Where do I begin?
Just do it. That's my answer.
Just do it.
I think for me, it's just what Elmore said, is making a decision and just starting. You know, and your start could be a small step, but it could just start with the conversation. It could start with your ideas. You know, it could start with you trying something different, you know, something small, but just to begin to recapture you.
Mm-hmm. I love that. My suggestion is to do a time audit. Take a moment. Look at where your time is going. Where is it washing away? I have had to catch myself in the mornings going into wash dishes, for example. And I will say, I am not paid to wash dishes, nor is this my job anymore. It's the job for my older children. Why am I doing stuff that is not my job? I got to catch myself, right? Because there are 3 things we can't delegate. Loving your man, affirming your kids, and having vision. There are some things that only I can do. Dishes is not part of that. So some of us if you want to start a practice, take a moment and just look at your time. Where's your time going? And are you doing things that you could pay somebody else to do? Even if it's your teenager, $5. You could pay them to do something, better than normal, and that frees you up to have time to have a self-care practice.
Wow. Yeah. So those are all of my questions, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to go around the circle, and whatever you want to tell the ladies, I really think this has been beneficial and helpful. Whatever wrap it up stuff you want to put on this, I think I'm gonna go alpha. So we're gonna start with Miss Christina. We're gonna go to Kelle, and then we're gonna let the professional wrap us up with Miss Tandrea. So let's go around the circle, close us out, give us some final thoughts before we wrap up for the day.
Well, Pastor Mickles, thank you for having me. It's been a joy, especially to meet some ladies that were outside of my network. We're going to have to key some other time. For everybody that's watching today, I just want to encourage you that you can make a change. You don't have to live surviving for the next 5 years, 10 years of your life. You can make a difference today if you so choose. And I would love to just connect with anyone. My last name is Garret, Christina Garret, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram at the Momathon Diaries.
Love it. Well, it too has been a pleasure meeting you wonderful ladies, and thank you so much, Pastor Mickles, for extending this opportunity to share. I'm wanting to just make it this simple to you ladies. Anything you want to do, you can do it. As long as you're breathing, you have an opportunity. You're not stuck. You just got to make a decision. There's so many resources. There's so many doors that you can open up, and there are people that will actually help you and walk step by step with you in order for you to gain the momentum. You're never by yourself, no matter how old you are, no matter what your stories look like. None of that stuff matters. What matters is where you are right now, where you want to go, and what you're willing to do to make it happen for you. So just know, just as you've heard from all of us, and if a woman like me can be 41 years old and step into a new place of her life, I promise you, you can too. And you can find me on Facebook and or Instagram, and follow me for Transcend, which is talking about living beyond wherever you are.
Tell them about Ugly Bar too, so if they come.
So I am a licensed esthetician, and my business is called Ugly Beauty Bar. We're located in Pensacola, and yep, the name is Ugly Beauty Bar because there are some ugly things that have happened in our life, but it does not rob us from the beauty in who we are. And we do skincare and motivation for men and for women, just to tell you, hey, whatever your scar is, I don't care. Let's pull the beauty out of it so you can live forward.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I love it. So just a couple of things. I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate with such a dynamic group of women here. I hope that I didn't cut up too bad and I'll be invited back.
Absolutely.
But just a couple of things that I want to leave with the viewers is that one, you can have a pastor and a therapist. I suggest it. 2, perfection only exists in the dictionary. That's something that we often strive for, and it's a great recipe for anxiety and depression. So leave it in the dictionary. Your 100% may not look the same every day. You may be at 100% today, and tomorrow your 100% may look like your normal 80%, and that's okay. And I think the last thing that I would want to leave with everyone is, and it kind of ties into your question of, how do we start the practice of self-care? The smallest change can have the greatest impact. And so if you just remember that, you start with the smallest thing, and then you just gradually increase your self-care. There's something for someone to do. If you only have 2 minutes out of the day, if you only have 5 minutes, 10, 15, 20, 35, and before you know it, you're taking a whole day, or you're like me, you take a self-care week. My supervisor told me, he said, you're the only person that celebrates your birthday a whole month. I said, well, hey, I've decreased it. It used to be the whole month. So, finding time for yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself.
Wow.
Pastor Mickles, before we sign off, I want to share a resource. Hold on. This book, I've been teaching out of this book for the last several weeks to my community. It's called Take the Day Off by Pastor Robert Morris. He wrote The Blessed Life and a whole bunch of other, really great books. But it's about receiving God's gift of rest and about the commandment for taking Sabbath days and not making it, holier than thou, you got to be a 7-day of all these things. But he talks about how learning to rest is a sign of learning to trust God's faithfulness. And it has changed my life. Literally changed my life. So if anybody needs a good resource, it talks about emotional exhaustion and symptoms of that and a lot of things. The ladies in my community have gotten a lot out of it. And I wanted to make sure I suggested this because I'll be talking from it later. But it's a really good resource.
Thank you. We love books around here. We
love books around here. Just a little.
Yeah, we love books. Okay, and I wanted to make a comment based on Miss Elmore. You can't have a pastor and a therapist because your pastor has a therapist.
He better.
Yeah, your pastor has a therapist. And we love all of these ladies. My longest relationship is with Miss Kelle Daniels-Freeman. Her dad is my spiritual father, and we love him even today. Listen, I want you guys to have a wonderful Saturday. We look forward to seeing you guys in the morning for worship. I will not give the traditional blessing because, hey, we've laughed and talked too much for that today. But go in peace, serve the Lord. I love you.